Inquisition was a Roman Catholic judicial process focused on investigating and prosecuting heresy. Heretics is someone or group that denies the divinity of Christ and rejects the fundamental teachings of the Catholic Church. The methods of punishment are confiscation of their property, torture, imprisonment, hanging, beheading, and the ultimate punishment, burning at the stake.
The Holy Inquisitions of the Catholic Church began in the 12th century and were created to root out and punish heresy throughout Europe and even the Americas. Starting in 1184, Pope Lucius III sent selected bishops to southern France to track down heretics called the Cathars. This sect denied the divinity of Christ and practiced their faith outside the doctrine of the Church in Rome, which was considered heresy. Anyone accused of heresy was forced to testify. If the accused heretic did not confess, torture and possible execution were inescapable. These accused heretics who were denounced were not allowed to face their often anonymous accusers. The accused received no counsel and were often the victims of false accusations and vindictiveness. They were frequently ignorant of the charges against them, and confessions were often obtained through coercion, confiscation of property, threats against family members, and, more often, torture. Perhaps the most famous victim of the Inquisition was Joan of Arc, burned at the stake in 1431 in a murder that was politically motivated.
Another famous victim was Italian astronomer and physicist Galileo Galilei. His support for the heliocentric theory, the idea that the Earth and planets revolve around the Sun, put him in direct conflict with the Catholic Church. In 1633, despite his old age and ill health, he is found vehemently suspect of heresy. His sentence was commuted from life imprisonment to house arrest, where he spent the remaining years of his life. The Church banned his dialogue and forbade him from publishing any of his works, including any future ones. It was not until 1992, 359 years after his conviction, that Pope John Paul II formally acknowledged the Church's error in the matter. Meanwhile,
under the guidance of Ferdinand, due to his ruthless methods and efficiency, Torquemada was then named Inquisitor General, and he established his radical courts all across Spain. He used torture chambers. Torture chambers were used so as to not terrify the population, but to gather information. The torture was not random. It was precise and choreographed. Many times, others awaiting torture in order to get confessions would be allowed to watch as a victim underwent various forms of torture. This was psychological warfare in order to save time and hopefully have them denounce others.
Besides using tools and mechanisms designed to inflict fear and agonizing pain on their victims, one method most commonly used was the strappado, consisting of a form of torture in which the victim's hands were tied behind their back and then suspended by a rope attached to their wrist, usually leading to dislocated shoulders. Weights could be added to the body to intensify the effect and increase the pain.
An especially torturous variation on the strappado was tying the wrists of the accused in front along with the ankles, then adding weights before pulling the victim off the ground to hang.
The rack was also widely used during the Middle Ages. A person would be attached to a board at the wrists and ankles with some sort of shackle. The chains would be fastened to the cuffs. The chains would be hooked to a wheel and a crank would turn it. As the chains were pulled tight, the body would stretch and the joints, ligaments, and tendons would snap, crack, and break. Many other torture methods such as drowning, suffocation, skinning, bone breaking, and humiliation were deployed against thousands of Inquisition victims.
Another form of torture was the wheel, combining the method of the rack, which stretched the body, and strappado, which resulted in stretched and torn joints, ligaments, and broken bones. Those heretics who refused to confess were burned at the stake, with any chance at an appeal thrown away. The Inquisition continued unabated and extended into the New World colonies of Spain. Under the Supreme Council of the Spanish Inquisition, were 14 local tribunals in Spain and several in the colonies. However, these efforts to wipe out Protestantism were unsuccessful. Over the centuries, the Inquisition lost its bloodlust, but it was still in existence. For another 150 years, the Catholics in Spain used the Inquisition to attack suspected Protestants with equal effect.
The last person executed by the Inquisition was Cayetano Ripoll, a Spanish schoolmaster hanged for teaching deist beliefs to his students. This took place in Valencia in 1826.
The Inquisition was running out of victims, as well as public support, until the Spanish Queen Regent, Maria Cristina de Bourbon, issued a decree finally abolishing the Spanish Inquisition on July 15, 1834.